Welcome back to EDH on a Budget. I'm your host, Iceman. Today we're going to be going over part 2 of the Bring Back Land Ramp from the White Land Ramp section. We have first up Sudden Salvation for 10 cents. It's an instant for 2 white. Choose up to 3 target permanent cards in graveyards that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Return them to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control. You draw a card for each opponent who controls one or more of those permanents. So this is a nice flexibility in that you could get card draw from it, or ramp if you have lands in your graveyard. I don't know if you're going to be able to trigger this 3 times to get 3 lands, but you don't have to get lands with this, so that's nice. And if you needed the card draw, you could be political and grab something for an opponent and use this as a, well, I'll get back this Reclamation Sage if you use it to destroy that card over there. I wouldn't put this in any deck that doesn't have, because you do need to have stuff to do at instant speed. You don't want to be forced to have to do this. Even if you had 1 mana removal, that's not going to be good enough because you're going to be wasting that 3 mana. So try to put this in decks that have activated abilities or more instant speed cards. Next, this is only 10 cents. Next up we have Face Reward, which is another instant for 3 and a white. Return to the battlefield all permanent cards that were put there from the battlefield this turn. So if you had something that sacked all your permanents, you could get all those ETBs back, but there's also ways to sacrifice all the lands and bring them back. This is also flexible in that it helps against about half the board wipes, maybe more. Exiling stuff is getting more popular, but there's still a lot of destroy all cards going out around there. You can also bring back even 4 mana to bring back 2 or 3 cards would be pretty good in terms of if you had used a Myriad Landscape that turn that you sacrificed, a New Capenna land. That's already 4 mana for 2 cards. That ability's in green already. So the fact that you could do this in white is pretty good. Next up we have Sun Titan, which is a classic creature. It's a giant, 6/6 stats, 4 mana, white is the cost to cast it. Whenever Sun Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent with mana value 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. So this does not have that timing restriction, and you can do it every turn you attack and it enters. So it's great for flickering, it's great for haste, where you give it and you can attack right away. Its lands are obviously less than 3 CMC, so you can get them back, you don't have to. It's not true ramp, and where most people want to play ramp on turns 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, so this is pretty delayed, but I've definitely used this to get lands back, and it's something to keep in mind. There is a cheaper alternative with this next card, Redemption Choir. For 2 white, this Vampire Cleric has 3/3 stats with lifelink and Coven. If you're not familiar, Coven, it has whenever Redemption Choir enters the battlefield or attacks, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's similar to Sun Titan, but it's cheaper and a little harder to activate. Not even activate, trigger. It's a triggered ability. It's easier to trigger if you have cards like Ornithopter of Paradise that have 0 power. This already has 3 power, so then you just need something else. It's easier in decks that have +1/+1 counters, because that's easier to manipulate the power of creatures to trigger this. Now, it is a 3/3, so you may not have a good attack where it survives. That's something to keep in mind. And you don't have to get a land back, but you definitely can get a land back. And I've definitely used this to great effect, being able to ramp potentially every turn if you have some fetch land that sacrifices itself and then goes to the graveyard. It is flexible in that you could get other smaller creatures back, and that is how I like to build my decks, with flexibility where you don't have to do this one thing, because then that's going to be not so useful in other scenarios. This being able to get anything with 3 mana or less back is pretty great. There's a lot of utility creatures, utility lands, and other stuff you can do to get them into the graveyard and use them again and again with this. Repeatable recursion is quite strong. Thank you for watching, and next week we're going to be going over some more white land ramp. If you like what you're watching, please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And you rock. Have a great day.